inspiration for my project was to find a beautiful wooden plant stand that was about 33 by 33 centimeters to match a wicker basket that I found at Winners for $13 on clearance, and a beautiful cherry blossom tree that I got at IKEA also on clearance. Now, as I was browsing and scouring the internet, I saw a lot of interesting and unique pieces, but when I looked at the dimensions, these are handheld products and I don't feel comfortable buying things from Temu. Some of them were way too short, like this Esley wooden one at Amazon for $14.29, and others were too tall. So I decided to be creative. Being creative is one of my favorite things. I love to take something old and make it new, and I get to be inspiration. I get to use God to inspire me. God is actually the one who gives me these inspirational ideas, and so as I kept looking, I didn't quite find what I wanted. As much as there are beautiful things, I was not willing to spend $2.99 at Etsy on a wooden table, and so here we have my DIY project. First, you're going to want to take this IKEA Mammut children's stool. I got it in as is for $9. It's originally $15. I'm going to use some 60 grit sandpaper that I got from the dollar store to make the surface abrasive and help the spray paint stick better. So I pride myself on being a resourceful girl, a woman I should say, lady. I got these at Canadian Tire. This is satin beige. This was $13. This is on clearance. My goal for the project is to make this little stool look like a plant stand, and I'll show you the finished product when I'm done. And I also got this clear matte ultra coverage in case I use this so that it protects the little fleck, but I'm not sure yet. So these are the three products: Canadian Tire, Home Depot, and IKEA. Back. These are really clipped in, and I'm just going to try a different method by just kind of holding it like this. Nope, that's not working. Okay, I'm going to flip it upside down and we'll start with the feet. Updates that I have done so far on the stool. I did this part off camera because it was quite tedious, but once the stool was completely sanded, I took some yarn that I got from Michael's. I wouldn't say this is yarn. This is more like a jersey t-shirt fabric, so it is flat and it does curl a bit, but it works well for this project. And I used this B7000 adhesive glue, which is very convenient, and I basically tied the strings around in knots, and I put the knots on the inside, and I let this cure for about 3 to 4 days, so it's pretty strong on there. The next step in my project is I got these stones from Dollarama. I did wash them, but they're still a little bit powdery, so I'm not too sure if I'm gonna wash it again. But the final step is to use this stuck contact cement. I won't be able to do this part on camera just because it does take 10 minutes to get tacky. So you apply this to the surface. So I use this string to create a flat surface and a guide to put the contact cement. And then you also have to apply it to the stone, and then you have to adhere them into place. It does say 10 minutes, which is quite a long time. And then of course, the longer you let it cure, the better. And then the final step in this project will be to spray paint the stool. So let's see how it goes. So I learned that this exact scene would describe my experience using the contact cement. It was oozing and gushing all over the place. And then when I attempted to get tissue to clean my hands, it resulted in this. It was a nightmare. And so we went to Plan B, and I do not recommend using contact cement. So I'm coming in post-project here. The project is finished, and I'm quite enjoying it. But Howie Parker did know something that I didn't know. Contact cement. I mean, I read it on Google, I did my research. It said that it's very messy. I guess I thought, how messy could it be? I believe in my video I already described it as like mucus and gum, but Howie Parker definitely knew something I didn't, and I don't recommend. So in this clip, I'm showing you the yellowish part. That's the contact cement. I decided to go ahead with the glue gun, and you can see it created this kind of crystal rock effect, which I thought was beautiful. So it almost kind of looks like candy rocks, and I'm just gonna sand those down before I paint it, but it's coming along much better than the contact. Okay, so this is the final project. As I said, working with the contact cement was a nightmare. So I ended up using super glue on the rocks, which is not ideal. But I made it work. And then I just sanded it down. And on the top, I decided to do these beads instead, which I think gives it overall a more uniform look. So the final step is to give it a wipe with some 100% alcohol and start scraping.
I didn't show the process of me using the glue gun just because I was really focused on what I was doing, but what I was trying to explain in my video is that the glue gun, because it comes out in little beads, it gave me the opportunity to kind of do this dabbing effect in between the rocks, which created just a beautiful canvas of texture. Once I had completed the base and I saw how heavy the rocks were, because they did need quite a bit of adhesive, the B7000, and then I went over it with glue, and then more B7000 because I realized that the rocks itself, they just don't work well with the hot glue. You can almost pluck them off. So I used the glue to create this candy rock effect. I didn't show that part. And then towards the end, once I saw the weight of the rocks at the bottom of the stool, I wanted the top of the stool to have more of a refined, just uniform, tasteful look. So I had these old braiding beads, wooden beads, like African beads that I've had for like 6 or 7 years that I didn't use. So I decided to use those, and I placed those around the edge, the perimeter. And the main reason for me using the rocks at the base and at the top is to cover the plastic line. So I'm going to show you the finished project next, and let me know what you think.
One more post-project update before the final reveal. I did sand down using 120 grit on the beads because the beads had a glossy finish to them. And whenever you're working with hot glue, there's always an extreme the strand, the plastic. So I did a little scoop of those, and some of the glue left like a painting drip, but again, I looked bothered about it because you're not going to see that part, but if you attempt this project on your own, I would recommend just using a higher grit, just something maybe around 100. But I really wanted to paint the stick, and I did layers and layers of spray paint. And I didn't film the spray painting part, obviously, because I wanted it on my phone, and it just wouldn't be safe to have like device spray painting and whatnot. So without further ado, the final project. This is the final project of the IKEA Mammut stool. I wish I had a nice spinny table to show you, but I used the satin beige to spray paint the entirety of it. The bottom is still red. I didn't bother spray painting the bottom because you're not going to see it anyway, but you can see it has like a satin finish. And then I went over it with the Rust-Oleum stone. And then as a final touch, I see some red peeking through, but I didn't mind because I want it to look rustic, and there are some kind of little paint pieces that I would have to just either sand or use a tweezer to pluck. But overall, I'm really, really happy with this project. It gives me exactly what I want, something I couldn't find online, and I love the ability to create it how I wanted it to.
It's dusk now, so it's getting off for 2 years. And I thought I wasn't going to have enough to do this shape, but I actually did. So there's just this kind of funny detail on the other side where the beads are circular like this. And I think I kind of like